Strange Academy 2 starts off with a flashback starring a young man named Germain. When he was a kid, he and his sister were attacked by a vampire. His mom saved them and killed the monster, but ever since, they have scared him stiff. Like, literally. Herman was the person that Pia saved from the vampire back in issue 1 because he froze. So imagine his surprise and horror when it turns out that his new bestie, Pia, is a vampire herself. So he's having a bit of a hard time dealing with her biting Kid Darkhold in the neck. Pia argues that it was self-defense. The spell that Kid was carving in the dirt when the kids found him, that was the Montesi formula. He was going to destroy all vampires, including her. So she had to do something. And this is honestly news to the Academy students. Dr. Voodoo was against using the formula, which we saw back in the first issue, because he knew that it would destroy even the good vampires, and he wouldn't do that to her. The other kids are shocked and horrified by this news. And for Herman, this is easy. Pia is his friend. Nothing else matters. So he suggests that now, instead of using the Darkhold to cast the formula, they stop Doctor Strange from casting the formula. Which is complicated because Kid Darkhold has run off. Back at the Academy, two of the other students, a crystal thing named Toth and a frost giant named Gus, report that Shaylee, one of the students on the Madripoor mission, has texted them. They have found the Darkhold, but it is a kid, and they need help, and Dr. Voodoo says, no, that is out of the question. The Academy has been locked down because, we've got a bad case of vampires all over the planet, and he will find the students and bring them back. Tell them to come back, actually. And please, for the love of God, tell them to stay away from the Darkhold. Both of the kids hate being sidelined as they leave his office, which is when Agatha Harkness teleports in, offering them her help. Back in Madripoor, the kids are walking through the city on the hunt for Kid Darkhold. Pia and Herman are actually having for their age, a nice, mature conversation about their suddenly complicated friendship. Along the way, they bump into some vampires, and we get our required fight scene for the issue. While the kids are fighting, they do spot Kid Darkhold. They lose him in the chaos for a minute, but Toth and Gus manage to corral him. They then explain about Agatha sending them to help, and Kid Darkhold is quaking in his tiny shoes. Please, don't give me back to her. I'll do anything. Pia argues against trusting the Darkhold, and he just doesn't get it. This is his one chance to save the world. Just let him do it, please. And that catches everyone off guard. For all of his existence, the Darkhold has been the center of so many dark, diabolical schemes, Kid Darkhold explains, filled with just nothing but dark magic. Then, one day, he's suddenly a human being, and free to experience the joys and wonders and just everything that life is. He thought that Agatha would help him experience life, but she just wanted to use him to escape her enemies. She didn't care about Darkhold at all. All Kid Darkhold wants is a chance to figure out who he is, what he is, and just be that person. It wants freedom. And just as it was getting to experience that, vampires show up everywhere and they start biting people in the necks and killing people. Is it any wonder that it tried to cast the formula? It was trying to do the right thing. Just as Pia starts to argue this again, Agatha shows up, looking shockingly contrite for Agatha Harkness. Embarrassment is not something Agatha does. But Kid Darkhold doesn't care. He teleports out of the scene in a burst of yellow and black mist. And as that mist clears, the Academy kids are getting real tired of being on the back foot in this adventure. Oh, and Agatha is gone again. It doesn't look like anybody really notices, but she is. And someone else is suddenly there to help them out. Descending from the sky is Dr. Doom. Come with me and you can witness and potentially take part in the world's salvation, Doom offers. Do they have to destroy all the vampires on Earth to do it? Zoe Laveau asks. Not at all, Doom replies. Okay, cool, we're down, she says. Hermione couldn't believe that they would team up willingly with Dr. Doom, but they've got another bigger problem. Pia is gone. The kids figure that the Darkhold must have taken her, so they tell Doom that sure, they'll help him, but first, he's going to need to help them find that little brat. And we end the issue on Kid Darkhold and Pia appearing at a fighting stadium. It looks like we're about to get it on. My name is Ben, and this is Breakdown's coverage of Blood Hunt episode 11. So your best friend is a vampire. My guess is that Kid Darkhold just randomly teleported them to Madripoor's Bloodsport tournament. What this is going to have to do with anything, I don't know. It could just be a boxing match or a fighting match or something like that. But we're in Madripoor, right? You might as well reference the Bloodsport tournament. There was a one-panel appearance of the Princess Bar in this issue, where Wolverine hangs out when he is in Madripoor in his patch identity. So clearly the author is something of an X-Men fan, and the Bloodsport tournament has almost exclusively shown up in Wolverine comics. I suppose technically it showed up in Thunderbolts when Mr. X joined the team, but still, it's typically an X-Men thing more than it is an anybody else thing, but it'd be nice to see it referenced here. Secondly, Dr. Doom. That is really unexpected, to say the least. I really like how Strange Academy 2 has me guessing where these issues are ending. But I don't think it's him. I would absolutely do believe that Dr. Doom would manipulate these children to fit his ends, but when asked if saving the world means exterminating a race, he wouldn't cheerfully reply, "Not at all!" It's just so out of dialogue character for him. I'm betting that this is Agatha Harkness, like with an illusion on herself, so that she can work with these kids without rousing their suspicions farther. Kid Darkhold will probably honestly be more trusting if he goes, "Oh, that's Dr. Doom," as opposed to, "Oh, that's Agatha Harkness." So this could be just a sly move on her part, and the timing, of course, works out. And we know from elsewhere in the narrative that Doom is currently ensconced safely in Latveria, minding his own business for the most part. So I would be really surprised if Doom shows up in this comic. The rest of the issue is basically structured around Pia and Germain's friendship, and who Kid Darkhold is as a person. As much as I did dislike the first issue of this comic for not establishing who anybody in the cast was or what their powers were, I do have to say that this issue kind of made me like Herman, at the very least. His freezing when facing vampires in issue 1 now makes more sense. His reaction to potentially wiping them out last issue is what weirded Pia out. He was like, "Yeah, let's kill all the vampires." And she's like, "Ooh." And then he's like, "Do you want to come help us?" And she goes, "I guess." Because she just heard her new best friend say that he wants her dead. And sure, Herman did not know this, but still, watching the two of them talk things out in this issue and argue a little bit about it was super cute, and it worked well even if it is pretty simple. These are not the deepest characters that I've ever read about in a comic, but they are interesting. I do think there's a genuine connection here that is being explored, and I surprisingly enjoyed that part of the narrative. I had a good time. Kid Darkhold then gets fleshed out a little bit more here, giving us at least a character motivation. And the fact that his motivation is to just keep on existing, I mean, I won't lie, on the one hand, it does feel boring as hell, but on the other hand, that's the motivation for most of us. I'm alive. I want to stay that way so I can keep experience life. It does make sense. And I do think that him wanting to do the right thing is the perfect pitch for starting up a new volume of Strange Academy with Kid Darkhold as one of the main cast members. I know Marvel's not listening to my show, but I want to manifest this in comic form. I'm not going to say I'd love it, but I'd buy it, Marvel. Come on. I even like the retcon of him trying to cast the Montesi formula at the end of last issue. I think that's super clever. I think it makes sense. It fits his motivation. It's nice to see someone get a chance to actually try to cast it, given that it's been such a thing up to this point in Blood Hunt's narrative. Even if it's a little weird that Pia, who ostensibly would not have ever seen the Montesi formula, walks up on this kid in the woods and goes, "Oh, that's the Montesi formula he's carving into the dirt." I am a little bit annoyed that Pia's bite of him doesn't seem to have had any effect on Kid Darkhold whatsoever, which really makes me question what the actual rules of vampirism are in the Marvel Universe. I thought that if you got bit, you would turn into a vampire. And I mean, maybe the Darkhold is just immune because it's a magical being. It's actually a book, technically. I mean, is he slowly being turned? Did he cast a spell that could cancel out the bite? Because, again, he's a magical being. He certainly does not have a wound on him for the rest of the comic, and it just seems like a complete waste of a plot point. As opposed to biting his neck, Pia could have easily just, clobbered him in the head, and then he would fall over unconscious. So I do think there's a bit of a gap in storytelling logic there. While I do think that Strange Academy issue 2 is a bit uneven in its execution, I am still really invested in Kid Darkhold's story, and I won't lie, the cast is starting to win me over. At least Pia and Germain are. The rest of them are still pretty one note otherwise, but again, I like what I'm beginning to see here. I'm beginning to get invested. This is a good way to get somebody interested in more books. Next episode, we will return to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Strange's ally and friend, Wong, must battle against both the vampiric body of Doctor Strange and his ghostly vampire brother, Victor. What a sentence. I love comic books. If you enjoyed this episode of Breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the show, then click on that as well. I love getting feedback, and I would really appreciate it if you did so. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to suggest a comic or a series to me, Breakdown can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and on a variety of podcast platforms, with links in the description for this episode below, as well as the email cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.